I'm really not prone to drinking a glass of wine at 2 o'clock, 2:33, whatever it is, on a Friday afternoon. Usually that's something I'll do with dinner. Or maybe a glass with some friends, but today has been a really, really rough day, and I think if I talk it out, it'll feel better. It's one of those things where you know that you've done the right thing, but it doesn't feel good. My mother had frontal lobe dementia, and it made her very aggressive and very mean a lot of times. She was a brilliant woman. She was a Christian author, and she, up until the place where she could not hold a pencil, would copy the Bible so that she would remember God's word in her heart, even though she knew her mind was failing. So my mom had this little dog, and the dog's name was Sugar. You've seen her on some of my videos. We call her Minnie Mouse or Sugar because we have the Maximus dog, Lincoln, and then Minimus was the mini dog. But her name was Sugar. And after my mother lost her Sheltie, BJ, she went to the pound and she found this dog that she really fell in love with, and it was the ugliest dog on the planet. But they said they had 2 people to pick from, and they picked this other couple that had small children. And 2 or 3 days later, they called my mom back and told her that they had returned the dog, that the dog just wasn't a good fit for their family. And so Mom went and picked up the dog. And from that moment on, Sugar was my mom's very most best friend in the whole wide world. Sugar had been a rescue dog, a house that they were demolishing, and then the dog literally went to prison. She was part of a program in Chillicothe, I think it was Chillicothe, Ohio, where they would bring the dogs in and these inmates would train the dog. But she had 2 owners in prison because one lost his privileges, so she had another owner. And then after a year, the program was up. The inmate had to give up the dog, which I think would be really heartbreaking if the only connection you had to love and care for something was a dog, and then it got taken care of you. I don't know that that's that healthy. That's just me. But anyhow, then the dog went to rescue, and then the dog went to this other family, and then the dog ended up with my mom. She was a very shy dog. She didn't nip. She rarely barked. But as my mom's disease progressed, the dog's devotion to my mother became stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where when we moved my mom from her home into assisted living, we paid extra so my mom could have the dog with her. My mom was in Indiana at the time, and my brothers and I were in different states. And so we literally paid somebody $50 a week to go outside and clean up after the dog. But you know what? That was my mom's money that she earned, and that dog meant more to her than anything. Well, my mom ended up having to go through some different channels into a program to assess how bad things were, and she came and lived with us for 8 weeks, and she brought the dog. And the dog followed her everywhere. If Mom laid in her bed, the dog laid in the bed. If Mom sat in a chair, the dog sat beside my mom in the chair. If my mom came to eat at the dinner table, the dog would eat underneath the dining room table. She wouldn't ever do anything without my mother. And it got to the point where the only object that my mother could relate to was the dog. But my mom became so incredibly violent, which was not her, which was this frontal lobe, that she had to go into a memory care unit for our protection and hers, and she couldn't take the dog. So we had the dog. And the dog was just miserable. No matter what we did, we could not connect with the dog. The dog would never sit with me on the recliner. The dog would never sleep with us in the bed. The dog still ate underneath the table. She started losing her fur. We found out she was deaf. She had a rare type of yeast infection that was from the inside out that caused an elephant skin kind of disease that's more rampant in terriers, which she was, than anything else. And she smelled. No matter how much we changed her bedding and gave her baths and gave her medication and changed her food, nothing was helping for this. And then she got to the point where she was losing control, either through her own dementia or some kind of renal failure, that she couldn't even make it outside anymore. And so a couple days ago, after literally a lot of prayer and discussion with family members and encouraging myself, I made an appointment today, and we had Sugar euthanized. It was very painful for me on a whole bunch of different levels. I cared for the dog, and to say, you know what, I just think you're ready to be dead, to me was harsh, even though everybody was reminding me, including the vet and the vet techs, about quality of life. But this was a link to my mother. This was the last living thing besides my brothers. Don't want to discredit you, Eric and Joel. To my mom, I mean, and she had said to me one time in a very lucid moment, make sure you take care of Sugar. I mean, that is how much she loved that dog. I mean, even during when she would pop out of the dementia brain, her thoughts were on this dog. And so it's a very sad time for me. I rarely let myself cry a lot anymore. I bury it. I bury it so that I'm happy, so the world around me will be happy, so that everybody will think that all things are good, and it's not. And I cried, and I will still cry off and on, because it's not good, it's sad. And I remember watching Andrea Mills' video one time. It's the Mills family now, and it was before she passed away, and she didn't even know she was sick, I don't think, at that time. And she said, you know, sometimes God just gives you grief, and what you have to do is just walk through it. You just have to walk through it. And that's kind of been what I've been doing today. I've been doing good things for myself. My husband took the day off to spend time with me, and he's a little emotional, and it's getting to him too. So we're being very kind to ourselves and just walking through it. Not pushing anything, doing things that are good for us. So I just thought I would come on and tell Sugar's story, tell my mom's story. Thank God for Sugar, because it was a gift to my mother, I think, from the Lord. My mother got Sugar before she had dementia, and this was the exact dog that she needed as she walked through this horrible, horrible disease. So hug your pets tightly, hug your parents tightly, love one another, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye.